So it's about 5:28. I think we'll give it a few more minutes just to allow some more families to join us. But it's really good to see everybody, and we'll get started here in 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay. Let me mute myself. Here, I'm crooked because Sydney's here listening, and if he wants to be on camera, he can lean in. So.
No, Sydney, we want to see him.
Yeah, I agree. Can't
give me a peace sign. Give me a peace sign.
He's just gonna come on.
Thank you, Sydney.
I'll move it back. But he's here. He's listening.
Just wanted to welcome the maker community. I see more and more people coming in. Good evening, everyone. Buenos noches.
Buenas noches.
All right. Thank you, Venus.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. ¿Tienen preguntas? Mándenos un mensaje en el chat. Okay.
I got enough room. I can move over. Oh no, plenty. Thanks. Fat ass is sitting over there. Me too.
So again, welcome to everyone that's coming in right now. We're going to wait just a couple more minutes and give a little extra time for folks to get logged in. It's good to see everybody.
We're up to 41. Welcome all newcomers. Welcome maker community. Going to be getting started soon. Oh, my phone has been going crazy today. Oh. Dante Penny, welcome.
Hey, Robert.
Good to hear your voice, sir. Good to hear your voice. Let me see any other students. I see here. Hello, Lewis. I recognize you too. How are you doing? Hello, Eva. I see everyone. Hello, Oliver. Laura, welcome. Mag, Jacob, Igna, hello, hello. Sophia, hello. Sylvia and Joe. Is that Matthew Dinesco? Vinta.
Yes, it is.
Good to hear from you guys. How that jump shot, how that three-point shooter doing?
Lazy.
That's what it's doing to us all, man. Good to hear from you guys.
Yeah, we're trying to get him upstairs now.
Okay.
All right, I think we should go ahead and get started. So I'm going to turn it over to Ivy in a couple minutes, but I think it might be great if all the staff that are on here could just like introduce themselves and just say like what their role is at the school. I definitely see some new faces on this Zoom call tonight, and so I think it'd be great just to do a really quick round of intros. So I'm Luke Bauer. I'm the principal here at Maker. It's really great to see everyone tonight. Just if you're a staff member, just take it from there.
My name is Stephen Roberts. I'm the Director of School Culture at Maker Academy.
I'm Ivy Anderson. I'm the Director of College and Career Counseling and also a social worker at UA Maker.
I'm Clint Laird. I'm a social worker at Maker and part of the guidance team with Ivy.
I'm Josh. I'm a social studies teacher.
Sorry, I'm Venus. I'm the guidance counselor. I'm with the guidance team with Clinton, Ivy, and Roberts.
Hi everyone. I'm Lucas. I'm the assistant.
Awesome. Any other staff on right now?
Hi everyone. I'm Ashley, and I'm the Pupil Secretary.
I think Kevin was trying to get in there.
Yes, we have some new members. I was looking for Kevin.
Oh, yes, my name's Kevin Deggett. I'm a paraprofessional, and I'm new with the staff.
Welcome, Kevin, again. Anyone else out there?
Hi, I'm Devin Garcia's mom, Celinda. She'll be a senior at the school.
Awesome.
I'm also new to this, so bear with me.
Oh, it's good. I don't think we have time to introduce every single person on, but is there any other staff members that are on? Jordan Feldman, I see you. Do you just want to introduce yourself really quickly?
Yes, Jordan Feldman. I'll be in the special ed department teaching English 9 with Jared and Karan. I'll be an 11th grade advisor. And super excited and thankful to be part of the Maker family and looking forward to this school year. Hopefully at some point we can all get together safely, but regardless, it's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
Welcome again, Jordan.
Yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to Ivy. She's going to talk a little bit about safety and health here at the school. Sort of give an update about that. That's been something that we've shared at the last few COVID Chronicles with families, just to keep everyone updated. And then we'll also spend some time talking about, what this fall is going to look like. Right? I think we have more information about schedules, and students have schedules at this point, and so we want to make sure that everyone can access those and really get all their questions answered that they have at this point. So. I'm going to kick it over to Ivy to start us off.
I'm happy to jump into health and safety, but we did kind of want to do like a temperature check with everyone and just see where you all are at as we think about going into the first week of school. So if it's cool, can we start there and just everyone on the call, staff, students, families, parents, first just take a minute and think about one thing that you're looking forward to this school year. And we're definitely going to save the chat and look through these and reflect on them as a staff. So please tell us, what are you looking forward to? We'll do a minute just for those responses before we go to number 2.
Should I say any of the responses as they come in, or?
Sure.
All right. Okay, ooh, they're coming in quick. One thing they're looking forward to is digital arts and how we can get together. Video game club, looking forward to that too. I'm looking forward to getting students and staff back together, even in the remote world. Some people are looking forward to coding. My youngest is going after his desire and my last child is going to high school. Okay. College trips, people looking forward to get on site to see how schools run. College visits if possible. Excited to learn and meet new students. Thank you, Marisol. Mary Wong, one of our students, I'm looking forward to game programming. Sounds like we're looking forward to learning again. That's awesome. Looking forward to working with their new advisor. Looking forward to sports. Yeah, I don't know when that's coming back, but you better watch NBA right now. Looking forward to my child getting out of the house. Nervous, but my child's going to run me out of the house. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on as well. Definitely is. Trigonometry. Dante, looking forward to trigonometry. That's right. Coordinate maybe virtual college tours. You heard that, Ivy?
Yes, I've got my work cut out for me, but I'm very excited. So college trips, video gaming, clubs, trig. I'm happy to say that we have digital arts, programming. We have all of these things. Seniors, you are going to graduate. We are going to get through this college process. So I'm excited that all of these things you're looking forward to, we're already planning for as a staff. How about the second one? One thing that you're nervous about for this school year?
Okay, my child writing the best college essay. Okay, that's what they're looking forward to. We're still looking for number 2. One thing you're nervous about this year. Okay, I'm nervous that it will wind up being remote all year. Yeah. Oh, nervous about meeting new people. Okay, you definitely will. Nervous, not engaging virtually as fully as he should. Nervous about their child losing out on quality education. Making sure each student can get the support they need. Making sure their child has enough support. We hear you loud and clear. Not being able to help me learn and understand each lesson completely. We hear you loud and clear. Sometimes this is great temperature check, these openings, Ivy. Good, very nice. More people getting infected, yeah. That's definitely a nervous point. That's the number one issue right there, worried about getting infected, for sure. Nervous about AP calculus. My son says he doesn't have the same retention with remote lessons as with live lessons. Me and you both. Yeah, very good point. I am nervous about missing any of my assignments for each class of high school and it being remote. We hear you.
So one thing, just reflecting on so much of these being about remote education, I'm not a classroom teacher, but I've had the privilege in being in a lot of PD, professional development for teachers this week about improving academics and thinking about how to be creative in a remote setting. And we've had 2 days of 8-hour PD on Zoom, like remotely, and it's been really engaging. So I think if we can do it as a staff, we can do it for you as students. So thank you for sharing all of these. And I'm glad to see that what you all are thinking about is aligned with what we're thinking about as a staff. So if we could transition to the next slide. We thought it was important to just share with you all, families, the long-awaited ventilation report that all principals and schools have now been provided. So it's slightly unclear who at the DOE conducted the report, but these are issued to principals as of like 2 days ago. So we actually wanted to give a minute for people to just look at the report. I'm also going to drop it in the chat with the caveat that we are not ventilation experts, but we are trying to make sense of this information and learn as much as we can about ventilation and air quality, which is something I never thought I would be investing so much energy in. But I think it's really important that we try to interpret these reports to the best of our ability. So we just wanted to like zoom in. You can click the link in the chat on your own. You can look at the report on the screen. Can you slow down a little bit? So just so people know what those green categories are, on the left is the room number. So there are 4 campuses, 4 schools in our campus. We're mostly on the 4th floor, which I think is where whoever is monitoring the screen was going. But the tabs at the top show the room number, whether there's windows, which for those of you who've been in the campus mostly know unanimously there aren't windows, or if there are, they don't open. Supply fans, exhaust fans, and unit ventilators. So supply fans have airflow going in, exhaust fans, airflow going out. Unit ventilators, not exactly sure what those are, but we don't have them anywhere in the building. So just wanted to give people a few minutes to look at this, to save it for yourself if you want to look at it later. And then I was just kind of do a temperature check with you all. Like, you know, the majority of our parents have opted students into remote. So I don't know if we need to talk through this extensively, but if people want to, I think it's important to answer your questions to the best of our ability. So give people maybe a minute to look at it, and then we can come back together at like 5:46. Just another note on this. I see there are questions emerging in the chat, so I'll get to those in just a second. This is public information, so there's also a citywide website where these are all located. So if you have children in other schools, if you know other parents who are wondering about this information in other schools, you can definitely spread the word about this. If we go back to the slideshow, we can do knows and needs to knows. We can just jump to questions, or we can move on. Can people put in the chat where they're at? Okay, so okay, so if you go to the next slide, I think this slide will answer the few questions that did come up, and then we can move on. So slightly less than 50% of classrooms and spaces in the building are operational. There's currently no bathrooms except the bathrooms on the 5th floor, which would be shared for students and staff that are operational. We do have rooms with operable ventilation, which means there's either an exhaust fan or a supply fan, one of them. But because of this, like the lack of understanding in terms of what this actually means, our strong recommendation is still for students and parents to opt into remote. We do have a group of staff who are very concerned about students entering the building on September 21st, and are trying to work on recommendations for health and safety to submit to both our campus leaders as well as our union. So if you're interested in that, you can stay on at the end of this call, but we can move on with the agenda.
Thank you, Ivy, for for talking us through that. So I wanted to talk specifically about school is going to start, and it's going to start for most of our students in a remote setting. And that's so teachers reported back to, virtual school yesterday. And so we've been doing training really focused on how can we make, remote learning, which we know is going to be a part of every student's schedule this year, better than what it was, between March and June. And so something that just came out last week, and we hope that you've already seen it, but there is a link in the PowerPoint here. I'm also wondering maybe if someone from my staff could just drop that link into the chat so you can have the full calendar. But that was not something that we had, up until the last, it came out at the end of last week. So that's there, right? That's something that we wanted to make sure everyone had. If you could jump to the next slide. I sent this out in an email last week, but basically the city decided to push back the start of the school year. So normally school would have started tomorrow, right? Which would have just left, 2 days of training for staff. And so, we're very thankful that we have additional time to prepare, because preparing for this year is really unlike any other year that we could have, that we've ever had, here. So what they have decided is that next, and Liz, could you go to the next slide for me? There we go. So that school is going to start next Wednesday, right? So September 16th is the first day of school, except that's going to be all remote, right? Which is, again, what about 90% of our students have selected at this point. So the first day is next week. If you're one of the families that is planning on having, your student come into the building, that won't start next week, right? So everybody, 100% of students will start remotely next Wednesday through Friday. And the design of those is really, to build relationships back, right? And to spend time together, to make sure that every student has a device and has internet connection and that can engage successfully in remote learning. I've said throughout the summer that at the end of next week, I really want to know, out of our 500 students that we have, how many of them, right? I just want a fraction, right? How many of them were able to engage over those first 3 days in some way? And we're going to spend a lot of time doing outreach to the ones that have issues or problems connecting, so that we can try to help figure that out. I have had some questions about whether students need to participate in those sessions. The answer is yes. 100 school starts next Wednesday, right? So students need to participate. We're shooting for only about an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, around 9 to 11 or 11:30, with some activities both in advisory and also an opportunity for the students to meet their teachers, right? So we'll simulate a schedule and really practice that, being in one Zoom class and then quickly getting out of that and getting into another Zoom class, and being able to, to practice both the technical aspects of doing, remote school, but also giving a chance for that face-to-face time with students and teachers. There'll be, an email with Zoom links that are going out to students at the, before that time, so early next week. Any questions about just that part, about school starting next week?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. My daughter still has her laptop from the school from last year.
Yep.
But she was stating that it was giving her problems. Like, it was, what you were saying? It was what? So she was having problems with the laptop. So is she able to bring in the laptop to change it in for another one?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to have some time next Monday and Tuesday between 9 and 12, where families can come and either check out a computer if they don't have one, or in this case, bring one back and swap it out.
Oh, okay. So you said next week, Tuesday?
Next Monday and Tuesday. So next either one of those.
And Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I know before that issue was the what was that, the Google Chrome was she had a problem submitting her work through Google Chrome, which the school gave her another alternative to do it through email. So have they fixed that problem with Chrome or no?
That is a really good question. I mean,
Google Classroom. Sorry, she just corrected me.
Yeah. So most of our students, and obviously this year, like we'll be using Google Classroom a lot to submit assignments, but if there's ever an issue that it's not syncing, right, you can, a student can email that assignment to their teacher.
Okay. And I have another question. She has, what's that? I think physical education. How is that supposed to be done when she's doing homeschool? I don't understand how she's going to be graded for that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is like a remote class, right? So there's going to be some expectations for the students to be doing physical activity on their own, right? Okay. And documenting what they're doing and submitting that to their teacher. Right? So that is
So basically she has to make a video of her doing her physical education, then submit that?
I'm going to defer to our PE teacher for the specifics, right? Like, I don't know if there'll have to be like a video of it, but basically, like, we want to make sure that the students are getting exercise in some way, in the same way that they would be if they were in school, and getting that information. Yeah, but they'll get some, I mean, she'll get a clear answer to that next week during our orientation when she meets her teachers.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep cruising along here. Liz, could you jump over to the next slide? Awesome. So a couple of things just about our schedule, right? So students do have a schedule right now, and we'll talk about how you can get in to see that if you haven't already. But I wanted to talk for a second just about like how we got to the actual schedule that we did, right? So the schedule that students have this year looks incredibly different than what students have experienced the last few years at Maker. We realized last spring that students trying to balance 7 or 8 classes at the same time was extremely hard, right? So one of the things that this schedule does is it prioritizes students taking fewer classes at a time, right? So students will start off with 3 classes and their advisory, and they'll do that for about 8 weeks this fall, and then they will switch to another set of 3 classes for the next about 8 weeks, and then they'll flip back and forth. And we know that that is, it's obviously different than probably what any of us have experienced, but that's something that we've decided to do, something that we heard from students and that we heard from parents last year that, that needed to be included in our schedule. We're also prioritizing a lot of student support, right? So I saw that in the chat about worries. It was the thing that I've been worried about, is like, how can we make sure in a remote world that all 500 students are getting what they need? So you'll see in the schedule that we have a time called academic coaching, which is an opportunity to set some goals and to get some extra support in their classes. There is also office hours, right? Which is exactly what it sounds like an opportunity for students to make appointments with their teachers to get additional support. Our schedule also prioritizes relationships. That's something that we've done really well over the first 6 years of existence. And so, we do that in both our advisory and our core classes, but something that we're doing a lot of work even with our staff on this week about how do we do that through a screen, right? When we're not, face-to-face in the same room. And we also wanted to ensure that the experiences that students got were the same, right? So that students that are working from home or students that are coming into the building are getting the same education. So we've talked about this summer that students that do come into the building, right, they will be engaging in those same remote lessons that students that are at home are engaging in. You can jump to the next slide. So here's our schedule. I'll just give a 30 seconds or so just to take a look. So a couple of things to note, right? So first of all, that 0 period, that 8:30 to 9, so that's when our teachers are planning. And that's also when students will be arriving at school, right? So we're gonna open up our doors at 8:45. And that's when the students that are coming to school will be allowed to come in. And we'll talk more about sort of the health and safety protocols around that later on in the presentation tonight. All of our students will have advisory, and then those 3 classes that we just spoke about, you know, from 10 to 1. Then they'll have their academic coaching period, which is that extra support based off of what they did during that day. And then at 2 o'clock is essentially the end of the day, right? So for students that are in person, right, that's where they'll be able to grab lunch if they want to, and then head outside and head home. So the rest of those boxes, what is period 7 and period 8, are just teacher facing times, right? So that's when teachers get their prep period, and then the office hours are at 3 to 3:20. And then you'll also see here when you log into Jump Rope, right? So if you log into Jump Rope, which is where students can see what like the names of their classes are, you will see periods 9, 10, and 11, right? So those are the classes that will swap with classes 1, 2, and 3 later on this fall in November, right? So some students, when you log in, right, it'll look a little confusing, but we wanted to put on there so that families and students could see all of their courses that they would take over the course of the year. Okay. Liz, could you jump to the next slide for me? Awesome. So here, right, is how you can log in and see your kid's schedule, right? So if you haven't done this yet, we can drop the website into the chat, or you might just take your phone. I see some people with their phones out snapping a picture of the screen. That's also great, so that you just have that right at your fingertips. Your OSIS number, I get that a lot, right? So that's just your student ID number, right? But that goes in as your password to start off with. All right, we're gonna keep going. I know there's a lot of questions. I can sort of see them popping up in the chat, but we will have some time at the end just to like kind of open it up to any additional questions that we're not getting answered now. This is something that we've been working on a lot to try to, again, increase the expectations, honestly, for everyone, you know, to increase the expectations for the principal, to increase the expectations for our teachers and for our students. So, you know, one thing that we've been clear about and that we heard is that, you know, there needs to be live instruction each day, right? One thing that didn't work particularly well was just getting a list of assignments and students feeling like they had to figure it out themselves, right? So there's going to be live instruction each day, right? And I'm just kind of going through what these slides are under where it says teachers will. We've also been talking and trying to model for our teachers how to create different types of activities that allow students to talk to each other, right? Using breakout rooms, which is a function that you can do in Zoom, but trying to make sure that teachers aren't just standing up and talking to kids for 45 minutes, right? Because we know not just kids, but adults, right, start doing different things after a few minutes of just being talked to, right? That's not the way that we think that people learn. And so we're working on how do we best use the technology to engage kids. My teachers were talking today also about needing to find opportunities during class to allow people to turn their cameras off, right? Like, we don't think that kids staring at a screen for 4 hours each day is gonna lead to a lot of critical thinking, right? After staring at a screen for 4 hours, it's really hard to stay focused, right? So we're asking our teachers to build in opportunities, even if it's short ones, right? Like, we're gonna turn our cameras off for 5 minutes and I want all of you to work on this, right? And then we'll come back, right? And be able to check in about that work. We also value having really clear rubrics for all of our assignments. If you're new to Maker, You'll learn more about our mastery-based, grading system and learning system. But we want to make sure that the criteria, right, like what is good, is really clear to students and to teachers. So you'll see rubrics on assignments that help students know what level they're at. And then there'll be Google Classroom, right? So we're working on making sure that our Google Classrooms are more organized, right? We heard from parents last spring that every teacher's Google Classroom was different and made it really hard to find the same information across different teachers' pages. So we're doing some work to make that more streamlined and more aligned. For our students, right? For students that are on here, I really want you to listen, right? Like one of the things that we know that needs to happen is that students need to be prepared for class, right? And that means being ready a couple minutes before class starts, right? Ideally, students are taking a look at the Google Classroom page, right? Before class starts, right? To get a preview of what's going to happen, right? And not just waiting for their teacher to tell them what to do. We also want to make sure that students have their cameras on when it's time to have your cameras on, right? So my hope is that that's not for 4.5 hours straight, right? And that's what I've been talking with my teachers about. But there are times where people need to see each other to communicate, right? So we do want to make sure that that's possible. And if we need to help with devices, right, we've already talked about that. Like we can help get a device that has a good camera so that students can participate. We also know that there's going to be a lot of different circumstances that come up this fall, right? And the thing that we really need from students and from parents is just strong communication, right? If there's something that's getting in the way of a student being present for class, we need an email, right? We want to make sure that you're able to reach out to your child's advisor and to our attendance office to let us know that they're not going to be there that day. And again, the last bullet there is to really use that academic coaching and extra support time to make sure that that students are really understanding everything that they're being taught during the day. I'm going to pause just to take a couple questions. I'm curious if for folks that are monitoring the chat, is there anything related specifically to these last 3 or 4 slides that I could answer?
Will this schedule continue if school were to go back into in-person? I hadn't thought of that one.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, I think if there was a magic wand and we were able to just like magically all go back and everything was safe, like I think we would probably change the schedule. We set this up like this so that by the end of the first semester, which is the end of January, students would have seen all of their teachers and had part of all of their courses by that point. So that if we did, and it was possible to bring everybody back later on in the year, there wouldn't be some students that had seen one course more or longer than another one, right? So we sort of chunked it out like that. Like, I don't think any of us know really what this year is going to look like, but we're sort of planning on, just taking it a couple months at a time.
Luke, is academic coaching still a non-graded class?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. One of the things that we are going to do is we are going to probably put some grades in there so that parents can see and students can see like how well a student is engaging in academic coaching, right? It won't count as a credit, right? But we think that that's a really important time period, specifically for any students that might be struggling, right? And so if there's students that are struggling, that's a period that we want to see them engaging with, right? And talking to their teachers. So it won't count as a credit, but there'll be some feedback in there basically like on a weekly basis as to like how well a student is utilizing that time.
We have a question.
Sure.
Me and my wife, we set in the paperwork for the laptops when it first started. And I don't know if we're supposed to do it again or what's the protocol for that?
Yeah, so the computers, right? People are gonna be able to stop by this coming Monday or Tuesday from 9 to 12 and pick up a computer. So here in a couple minutes, Ashley is gonna talk just about our registration paperwork and that is where that form lives, right? So we'll be able to, if you haven't filled that out, you don't need to fill it out again. But our tech coordinator is going to be coming in to help make sure that we have enough devices ready to go for families next week.
Okay, so when we show up on Monday or Tuesday, our paperwork should already be there since we did it beforehand.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
So for people that already have a laptop, they still got to do the paperwork?
Really good question. So there is still registration paperwork that every family needs to fill out. Right, so even if it's 100% remote, like you're still a student at Urban Assembly Maker Academy, right? So we still need all of that. We still need all that paperwork.
I have to do another one for my daughter, even though she has one. That's what you're saying?
You don't need to, if you have a computer, you don't need to fill that part out. But like, if you remember, like the blue card is probably, that's the card you filled out every year for your kids over the last few years. Like, we still need a blue card for every single student.
All right. So y'all gave that, y'all sent that an email, the blue card?
Yes. Yep. And we're going to send it out again tonight.
All right.
Well.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep.
And I have one more question. My daughter says she had a problem with some of her teachers, like she needed some information about schoolwork, and she said some of the teachers didn't respond to her. They didn't even get the email, or she didn't get a response in like 2 days from the time she emailed them.
Okay. Generally what I say, right, is if a student or parent or anyone isn't getting a response, you know, I think is to definitely contact your child's advisor. Okay. Right, as the first place to go. If for some reason you weren't getting a response from them, you could email my leadership team, which is myself and my 2 assistant principals.
Okay. All right.
And then I guarantee you'll get a response.
Yeah, I know I always get a response when I email you.
Yep. Gotcha. So we're gonna do one more slide, and then we'll talk about the registration information there. So this is just like super quick, but right now we have about 490 students enrolled. We have 44 that have chosen the in-person blended learning, and then over 400 that are doing remote. Right, 413, I think, as of this morning. And there's still about 33 that we don't have answers from yet. So we've been, that number was over 150 a few days ago. So we've definitely gotten in contact with more, but we're still waiting. So there still is a survey that you can fill out if you haven't told us. Again, most people have. There's only about 33 that haven't. But you can either fill out the survey or just email us to tell us whether you want to opt into remote learning or the in-person. Okay, that was me talking a lot. I'm going to turn it over to Ashley for a second just to talk about registration. Ashley, are you here?
I am here.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Hi, everyone. So everybody's favorite part about going back to school, paperwork. So this year it is very different, but we have tried to make this process as simple as possible. 100% of our paperwork can be filled out online. And we're going to take you over to the living document in just a second, but I'm going to walk you through what our required paperwork is and then what some optional paperwork that is available for you. Take us over to the main document, please.
You want to go to the actual document link? Yeah, you click these steps. That should be there. Yeah.
Okay, so once you hit that link, it'll take you to this living document. And the first thing you'll see, Liz, if you scroll down, is instructions on how to fill out all our virtual forms. So it walks you through whether you are filling that out on a computer, mobile device, iPad, etc. And it gives you some options there. So under our required paperwork, so this is paperwork that we need from all students, regardless of grade or whether you're a new student or not. This is the blue card, which is where we have all your contact information. And this is new this year. It's all done online, and you can update this information at any point and reshare this information with the school. So this will be very different. You do have to create an account through the Blue Card website. And then it'll just ask you questions about you and your student. And then once you're ready, you have to click the share this Blue Card button with our school in order for us to get that information. Our next document is the housing questionnaire. That is another required document. Yes, if we scroll down, those are the instructions. All the links are here also in the appropriate language for you and your family. And there's some additional notes on the side just about how to best submit these forms or any other additional information you would need. So next you can find the housing questionnaire. And then next up is the family income questionnaire, or formerly known as the lunch form. This form, once you complete it online, is automatically sent to us. You don't have to do anything after that point. An important note about this form is that it is tied to funding to the school and not necessarily have anything to do about lunch. So this form is very, very important that we receive from each child. Next up, we have the health examination form. This is just another version of a physical. We do have to have a physical on file for your student within the last calendar year. So if you submitted something to us last year, that is fine if the date has not passed within the year. If not, you just have to resubmit a new updated one. There is some guidance about DOE immunization regulations for you there. And then the last two required documents are the media consent form and the student handbook signature page.
The student handbook signature page is going to have the student handbook on it?
Yes.
Okay.
And then to finish up this document, we have some optional paperwork. So this is only required from you and your student if you need these services. So for example, if you would like to request a laptop or hotspot for Wi-Fi, you could go ahead and fill out that survey. And then next up under here is information about our school-based health clinic. We are fortunate enough to have a clinic on the 5th floor of our building. If you would like your student to be seen or receive any of these services, you will have to complete the paperwork listed under there.
So, Mr. Luke, this is the part where I fill out for my daughter for the switch out for the laptop, or no?
Yes, if you haven't filled it out yet, you should, if you need one. Yeah.
Okay.
Ashley, there's a few questions about deadlines.
Yes. So deadlines, the required paperwork, just as soon as you can hand that information in, the better. All completed paperwork can be emailed to attendance@ummaker.nyc. That's listed at the top of this document that we're looking at now. As we get further along in the school year, we will have concrete deadlines, and then a lot of you who have not completed paperwork will be hearing from me via phone, email. I'm very good at stalking, so please hand in your paperwork so that way I do not have to stalk you.
And she will.
I will.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Ashley, for taking us through that. Anything else from you?
No, that's it.
Okay. Awesome.
There's another question just about who is allowed to pick up the tech. Parent, child, either.
It can be either one. Yeah. Awesome. Liz, could you pop over to the next slide? Awesome. Just a couple of more here. So I did want to talk about, and again, I know that this is only impacting a small percentage of our, of our families and students, just those 44 that have chosen the in-person, but I just wanted to share what that's going to look like. So, our doors are going to open at 8:45. That'll give us plenty of time to get those 44, students inside. Students do need to have masks before they walk in. They need to be on. We will have some at entry, right? Like I know the ones that I have sometimes break, right? And then I'm like holding it, right? So we'll have some extras there. But students, basically everyone that's in the building has to have a mask on 100% of the time, right? So for the entire day. We will have some marks outside of the main entrance, right? I think there's few enough students that are coming in that there won't be huge lines waiting outside. But we will have some dots outside, that are 6 feet apart so that students can line up and wait, to go through, to enter the building, right? So we will be taking temperatures, anyone, principal, teacher, student, right, that has 100-degree temperature or more, is directed to go home and will be sent home. So if a student shows up at that place, you'll be getting a telephone call, like right then and there, to get permission to send them home and let you know that they're coming home. Now, of course, if a student showed up and was extremely sick, right, and we didn't think that it was safe just to send them home, right, we would obviously contact you. And then we do have an isolation room on our first floor right by our entry where we would have the student wait for you to come pick them up. Okay. And just speaking back to Ashley's presentation, having updated contact information is just extremely important this year, right? So that we can quickly get in contact with you, if the need arises. Things we've talked about before, obviously people, everyone has to maintain 6 feet of distance throughout the entire day. At least for a while, the days of a teacher coming up next to a student, kneeling down next to them and like helping them work through a problem, those things can't happen, at least for right now. So those things all have to be done from a distance. Students that do come in, they'll be assigned a room for the day, for the full day, right? We're not doing passing periods from one room to the other, but they'll be assigned a room with a computer and an adult that's supervising them. And then students will engage in their online learning. So I do think, in previous presentations, we've said, the in-person learning is not, it's not the in-person learning that we're used to in the past, right? So students, all students will be engaging in the same lessons, regardless of whether they're, at Maker or whether they're at home. You'll see some of the pictures. I just took some of these pictures today, right? So we have some fresh stickers, on the, in our hallways, that are helping divide the hallways up and helping everyone, not just students, maintain their social distancing. So, all right. Last part, and then I'll turn it over to our parent association. I've had a lot of questions and we've been getting a lot of updated parent contact information, but question about like, who do you contact, if you need updates? First of all, I love to hear from all of you. However, like I do really think it's important for you to get to know your child's advisor, right? So we're asking that you reach out to your child's advisor to be your primary contact person, right, for the school. So definitely you can log into the schedule and see your kiddo's advisor and get their contact information. A lot of them have already been making outreach to families to introduce themselves. You should also get on our email, right? So if you have not been getting emails from the school, right, like you did, if you didn't get one this afternoon, right, from me reminding you about this meeting tonight, that means that somewhere along the line, something's messed up, right? If you haven't gotten one, right, you can email me, right? And just say like, Luke, I haven't gotten an email from you, and I'll make sure that you get added onto that. We've also been using Remind, which is just a text messaging app. From your side, it probably just looks like texts that are coming in, but that's a way that we can quickly send messages out to several thousand phones at the same time in order to communicate in that way. And then finally, like our parent association, and I'm going to turn it over. I think the next slide is about the PA, but that's another great way to get involved if you're a parent. So I'm going to let Evie talk for just a couple minutes. Evie Raybeck is our PA president.
Hi. Yes, so congratulations, because you are now all automatically members of the UA Maker PA. If you are a parent or legal guardian, welcome to the club. So what we do is we usually meet the first Wednesday of every month at 6. So normally tonight would have been the first one, but these are interesting times. We have to be flexible and agile. So this COVID meeting was a lot more important, and we're going to try to meet next Wednesday, the 16th instead. We meet via Zoom currently until we are all allowed to kind of get back in the building, and that's actually seems to have made it easier for people to come. And we do the same thing that every other PTA or PA or PTO does. Our job is to create a community among maker parents and maker families, to provide a forum for people to get educated, discuss things, ask questions, have ideas, and to advocate for the students' needs, which also often involves potential fundraising to meet the students' needs. So you can flip to the next slide. Yes. All right, so your current officers are, I'm Evie, I'm the president, and I have an 11th grader. And I believe we have on the call tonight, although you don't have to get on the spot if you don't want to, but Owen Evans is our treasurer.
Hello, that's me.
Yay, there he is. And Owen, how old is your student?
He's also in 11th grade.
11th grade. And Fanny Castro is our secretary.
Hello.
Hi, Fanny.
Hi, and I have a 12th grader, a senior.
All right. And we currently have no vice president because they graduated out. So normally we would have had elections already, but because of COVID, all elections were pushed forward. So we're going to have elections before the end of October. If you're interested in getting involved in the school, come to PA meetings, because, you know, it's a great way to meet other parents and find out what's going on. You should also know that at every PA meeting, leadership is there. It's usually Luke. If it's not Luke, it's Liz. So you'll get to talk to the principal or the AP and find out what's going on. And every month we try to get a teacher or another administrator to come in and do some sort of a presentation about something about the school. So you'll be involved if you come. If you want to be extra involved, you can run for office. Like I said, we have an open position. And we will have an election next month, and we'll talk more about how elections will happen and how you can throw your hat in the ring next week. But I do encourage anybody who wants to, you know, has talent and time to get involved and to come and to run. I'll remind you, like, we're all volunteers. We're all parents. This is not a full-time paid position. Nobody's expecting that. We're just love time, talent, and treasure. Whatever anybody has and wants to offer, we'll take it. And we have an email. Yay, we have a new email address. It's pa@uamaker.nyc. So I am told that if you email that, it will go to myself, Owen, Fanny, and whoever winds up being our VP. And then one of us will get back to you. So we'll see you next week.
All right, I wanted to ask, when do y'all start your Title I elections?
I can answer that question. So those happen in October. There's a deadline. I don't think they've posted it yet, but it's usually like right at the end of October. So we do those during our October meeting.
The Title I, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That is it on my end.
All right. Thanks so much. So at this point, before we jump into, I know that there are some folks that want to hear more about the health and safety, so we're going to invite people to stay on. But before we do that, I know that it was a lot of slides and it was a lot of talking, so I'm just curious if there's any questions about anything that we've spoken about or that we haven't spoken about that I can help answer or someone from my team can help answer. you can either put those in the chat, or if you want to just unmute and ask, that's also okay.
I have a quick question. The name of a teacher as it's written in your student's schedule, is that the name by which the teacher wants to be addressed by the student?
So that's usually one of the things that our teachers will go through, like during their first meet and greets. Not every student's legal name or adult's legal name is their preferred name. So they'll talk about that and make sure that folks are aware of that. The students are aware of that before they start. Yeah.
My daughter wanted me to ask y'all, she's a senior, so basically how do y'all prepare the seniors for college, and who does she talk to about that?
Ivy, you want to talk for a second?
Is it Shamir?
Huh?
Your daughter, Shamir?
Shamir, yeah, Shamir Akinlani.
Yeah. So yeah, I emailed with her a little bit at the end of last year, but I walk all seniors through the process, like A to Z. And I had a lot of experience doing it, remotely last semester, last year with graduating seniors. So I feel even more prepared now. Thankfully, the college process, financial aid process is all doable remotely. And so I'm ready to go. So I'm your person. She has my email. Reach out to me anytime.
All right.
You'll hear from me all year.
Not to cut you up, but she her phone broke, so right now she's using my phone, but her email is on her phone, so she says she can't get through to her email. So how's another alternative for her to deal with that?
I'm putting my email in the chat right there. I can also email her directly if that's helpful.
No, I'm saying that's what I'm saying that she can't get to her email. That's why what's another alternative?
I would say grab a computer on Monday, right? I don't, so that she can get going then. I don't think she'll miss anything between now and Monday. Yeah.
Luke, there are a couple questions about IEPs and how they'll be handled in this flex time between remote and hopefully when we're back traditionally.
Clint, do you want to just take that one?
Yeah. Sorry, my camera's off, everyone. I'm trying to not have delay when I'm talking because of our internet. So obviously when we're back traditionally, IEPs would be and services would be just as they were. And as they are mentioned in the IEP, I'm also happy. I think I've talked with almost all of our incoming first-year students' families. If you haven't talked to me, I think I've left you a message, but I'm going to put my email in the chat so you can send me a message. And or if you have a specific question that you want to just talk more about, I'm happy to navigate that. In short, during remote time, we're going to be talking with families about how we can best meet students' needs virtually, just honoring the constraint that is the computer screen is between us. So case managers will be reaching out to families to talk about that and talk about which services would be most helpful and beneficial in terms of helping students manage the task at hand. So I think that's a really vague answer, and it's kind of vague on purpose because each IEP is really individual. They're named the way they are. But we can talk about it specific situations as they arise, and that could be with myself or with the case manager that will be reaching out to you within the first couple weeks of school. Any pressing issues, please email me. Happy to jump on a call to chat further.
I'm just seeing a couple of questions. One about the new schedule. Will we be emailed our first 3 classes? You can log in and see your schedule right now. You will get an email for next week that just talks about how to get into your first few Zoom calls. right? So that we can do more, training with everyone about that.
Luke, there was also a question I'm not sure if we answered it, but it was about, I'm assuming a bit, but it sounded like it was about how we decided what's being taught at the beginning of this year, just kind of honoring that there were some gaps naturally from going from in-person to virtual. And if there's anything that you want to say to speak to, like where we're starting or how we decided where to start this year.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess in terms of like the actual courses, right? So students will, over the course of the fall, take all of their courses, right? I think the difference is that they won't have had the same amount of time in each course, right, as they would have had last year, right? So you're taking 3 classes, right, between September and basically the first part of November, right? And then another 3 classes, different ones, right? So just like super clear, like you might have algebra, English, and social studies for the first 8 weeks, and then you wouldn't have algebra, English, and social studies for the next 8 weeks, right? You might have science, CTE, and health, right? And again, that's because we heard really loud and clear that trying to focus on 7 or 8 classes at one point, was too much for students to, to try to do, like staying on a Zoom call, all day long, 6 or 7 hours.
I know Kenji's mother has a question. You want to jump in?
Sorry. Hi. I just have so much background noises. First and foremost, you guys don't understand. Thank you. You guys have truly, like, all pun intended, are really making it happen. I'm dealing with 4 different schools, totally different age ranges with totally different needs. And if it wasn't for your Makers Academy's organization, Luke's leadership, I would have been totally lost, completely and totally lost. And it's already frustrating as it is. Not only do you guys have it together, and even if, if everything's by trial and error, you guys have been very transparent. Communication has been on point, and I totally appreciate it. And would like to thank you for all the hard work you guys have been doing.
Thank you. It's really nice words. I appreciate that.
Sorry. Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been tough. I have 2 kids with special needs, with autism, and it's been hectic to say the least. Like, I yet to have received even an iPad. I've applied through the school. I've applied through the DOE, and it's been very unorganized. And I get it. I understand. It's something that everybody was asked to pivot from one day to the other, but some schools, they didn't even try. I was literally teaching my son's kindergarten class for 4 weeks because they never had any live sessions or check-ins. They would leave like a whole paragraph of a bunch of words. He's in kindergarten. This is where they're learning their sight words. Like, how is that gonna happen? And it's been stressful and frustrating. But thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
You guys are amazing. But the other question was, the slideshows that you guys show during this meeting, would we be able to get a link to it, or copy mailed or emailed, or?
Yeah, so we'll email out just like I've done after everyone this summer, right? We'll send the full video of this,
Yeah,
so that families can watch the video, and also include the slide deck, which will have all the links into the things we were putting, right? So like through the registration forms, to jump rope, to all the different, if you know us, we like to hyperlink a lot of things, right? Which are those blue links that other pages. So
No, but
I know that it can be a lot,
useful.
but we try to get it all there in one place. So we'll definitely send that out as soon as we end the call.
Well, thank you. If there's any, like, there's been, now that they've been trying to bombard me with all these meetings, these Zoom meetings, and I'm like, well, it's been such a waste of time, literally. because they'll spend the first 45 minutes just trying to figure out how to mute and unmute the cycle at this late in the game. We're not talking about back in March or in April. But when it came to you guys, like my phone died out, my tablet died out, my laptop died out. I literally just grabbed Kenji's phone and his laptop, and I'm like, log in. Came in a little late, but it was totally worth it. And I just appreciate all the hard work. So thank you.
I have one question. Like, is there an alternative if my daughter comes in to exchange her laptop? Can she actually receive the paperwork of the blue card and all the forms and bring it to me, and I could submit it and bring it in myself?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just have to do it like that.
Can I jump in with a question? I'm curious, usually, you know, they come home from school and there's a printed syllabus that they have, and then there's curriculum night where the parents get to meet the teachers. Is there going to be a virtual version of curriculum night where we can see their syllabus and chat with the teachers? And
we've been doing these COVID Chronicles every couple of weeks, so I don't see that ending anytime soon. And so I think I think that our hope is to just get this school year started, right? So that when we schedule that night, you know, we're able to get some feedback from parents also about how things are going. But yes, is the answer to your question. Yeah.
And the other question is actually from Sydney. He wants to know if anybody knows how SAT and PSAT will be administered.
I can talk a little bit about that. So I know for fall, for seniors, there won't be like in-person SAT school day. I don't know if they're going to release other information about like a remote testing option, like the AP exams were last spring. So there will, like College Board has national dates and test sites, but there is a lot of advocacy around the safety of students going in person, again, just like the schools debate, to test sites around the city. So I'm meeting with my like consortium of college counselors early next week. We have our first meeting, and I think I'll have a lot more information. After that meeting, I'm going to host my typical 11th, 12th grade, like you just said, curriculum welcome nights, and that Eventbrite will go out to everyone. Also, important to note, most every college is SAT optional for the next 1, if not 3 years. So the relevance of the SAT is also diminishing.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Ms. Anderson. What about like scholarships for kids? How do they go about that?
That I collect income information from all rising seniors so that I can work individually with every family to assess like affordability. So for example, there's programs called HEOP, EOP opportunity programs that are not merit-based but can provide like full funding for a student. So I like to assess that first before I have students applying to like one-off merit, athletic, whatever scholarships. I like to really assess financial need and make matches to programs that can meet the need without a lot of outside applications. So if we can talk, I got your email, and we can work together on that. But all that info is coming and will be shared at those 11th, 12th grade meetings.
All right, thank you.
I've seen several questions in the chat about CTE, so just wanted to address those. So a couple things. If your student is a 10th grader, you might see that they don't actually have any CTE classes right now. We made like a really difficult decision about our digital media classes, that because most of our students are remote, and that is our recommendation of what is best, we didn't want your children to miss out on that really hands-on experience of being in our makerspace and using the 3D printer and the laser cutter and all of that. So we made the decision for now for them to earn their Spanish credit. That way they would still be, you know, meeting some of their graduation requirements, and hopefully either in the spring or next fall, they'll be able to have the full experience of taking their regular digital media classes in the makerspace. So they're still in the CTE pathway. They can still graduate with the CTE diploma. We're just shifting our order a little bit to make sure that we're, you know, able to give them the full experience of our makerspace later on. If your child is in a in the computer science pathway, those classes we've been able to transfer over much easier to computer-based learning, obviously. And if your child is in prototyping this year, they will still have the opportunity to take the Photoshop exam. Mr. Jerry is amazing, and he's reworking the curriculum to actually make sure you learn that stuff earlier. And when you come in to get a laptop, you actually will get a device that can run Photoshop. So be on the lookout for information about that, but you're still going to take all your CTE certification exams and get that CTE diploma.
I'm sorry, what are the hours on the 14th and the 15th for pickup?
9 to 12.
9 to 12. Okay. Do we have to make an appointment prior to, or just when we get there, call from downstairs and there'll be staff out?
Yeah,
Set
there'll be staff downstairs, so they'll be right downstairs. Yeah.
Can't you go by himself, or I have to? The parent has to be present.
He can come by himself. That's fine.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Oh, that would be so much easier. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I have one more question. All right. Being that my daughter's doing the virtual school, is she receiving a Metro card? Because at the time that she do have to come to the school, is that coming out of my pocket, or is she getting a Metro card?
The way that the DOE set it up is that if students are fully remote, meaning that they're not coming to school at all, right, then they're not getting a Metro card.
Okay.
Right? For students that are blended, which means that they would be coming in a couple of days a week, right, those 44 students, they will get a Metro card. Yeah. So I think what we're going to do right now is we're going to actually sign off to people and do the Zoom wave, right? We will keep people on. So if people want to hear more about the health and safety sort of ventilation issues in the school, we're going to stay on there. I know there's some families that are still deciding between that remote and blended. And so this information, if that's you, this information might be extremely helpful at this point. Okay, but if not, I want to really thank you for coming out tonight, spending some time with us and learning more about what we have planned for this fall.
Thank you for the information.
Yeah.
Just a quick plug, the SNAP school foods info and like how to access that. The PEBT info, I just put it in the chat.
Oh, okay, I see it.
Apples are pretty good.
So we done, right?
Yes.
So we're done with our like official presentation, but we know we onboarded us all to our meeting with announcements around health, safety, and ventilation. So we wanted to make sure we had a little time for people who had more specific questions and ideas to get a chance to connect. So if you're interested in that, that's what we're gonna transition to. No official agenda. I'm kind of just curious what, for those of you who are still on, why are you still on? What are you thinking about? What are you concerned about? What did seeing that ventilation info bring up for you? And maybe we can just this conversation toward that.
All right, have a blessed evening.
Have a good one. I actually have a question. Probably you guys touched on it prior to me logging on. As far as the ventilation and the school safety, are you guys truly getting the adequate support or some sort of support from the DOE? And is the support directly to, like, because the building hosts a couple different schools, so is it every school getting a different plan, or is it in conjunction with like the custodial engineer, like for the facility itself, as far as PPE is concerned? Or I just don't think the buildings aren't ready, especially Bertram. Bertram's not always a much older facility, much older buildings. So I don't know how much has been updated as far as the ventilation system is.
Right.
Are they going to
So
provide like PPE or a budget for it, or?
Yeah. So like one thing that I think is important to know is like all of the like the building itself is not something that like I don't hire the custodial staff or like the people that do the maintenance of the building. Like that's all controlled externally, which is part of the frustration, right? And I think that to answer your question, like no, the building's not ready to be opened, right? But there's been, right, like the city and the mayor have said that they're opening, right? And I think that that's the frustration that that's putting a lot of us through, right? Is like I've said publicly in these meetings since July that I can't guarantee anyone's safety, right, that comes into the building because of these issues. And the report that Ivy shared at the beginning of this meeting says that 49% of our classrooms have both like a working supply and exhaust fan. Like one question that we have is like, we don't know what working is, right? I think it means that they turn on, but that doesn't mean that. I haven't seen anything that's like a measurement that actually says that anything bad in the air is actually being exhausted out. And so there's a lot of really specific questions like that that we haven't gotten answers to. And I think that that's intentional from the DOE. I don't think they want to share those, which is really frustrating.
So this is Karen. I'm a mom of a 10th grader. What can we as parents do to help support you, the staff, and the changes that need to happen?
Yeah.
Can I-
Ivy, do you want to go? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think one thing, so our UFT chapter, in light of our union's agreement with the city to delay schools but not really address health and safety, has been organizing and thinking about that question. And one thing that we're working on is building a letter that has some feedback and research from a ventilation training that some of our staff members went to that gave more concrete specifics on, like, for example, how many rotations of airflow need to flow through an exhaust supply system to be safe for the capacity, like the number of students, pupils, staff in a room. Like pretty intricate things, but that there are people whose jobs are to like know and study those things. So we're putting together a letter that says that we want we want responses, we want adequate information, and we want the whole building to be, like the whole building is collectively writing this, the UFT chapters. We want that information, and we want to be able to provide that information to our students so that they can also understand implications of like returning to the building on September 21st or not. So we're trying to use this delay, this 10-day delay, to do as much as we can to advocate for all remote and to like say that our building is not safe. So if you're interested in that work, there's a group of people that are working on it, and we'd really like parent and student support. Even if 100% of students opted into remote, like the expectation for teachers and staff is that we're in the building doing work remotely. So, yeah. And honestly, before you guys, prior to COVID, I'm a retired paramedic. I was in 9/11, and one of my concerns with the building itself was that is the air quality, even so many years after, is it actually safe? So if I had this concern prior to COVID with something that's happened years and years and years ago, imagine now, like I still thought like the ventilation wasn't even adequate enough for post 9/11. And I like I said, I have 4 kids from 12 different age groups, from pre-K to the 10th grader to high schooler. And I understand the needs for parents because they have to work and the kids are younger, and it's unfortunate teachers aren't babysitters, but it's part of their, where can the kid go because they can't afford a sitter. But when it comes to our high schoolers, I mean, they can legally stay home alone, and I'm sure they're more independent learners, and I think it's safer for them to even stay home, just because with the commute itself, they're all coming from random areas from the city. I know that I've done my best to quarantine and isolate, and we've done the testing and everything pretty much monthly, every 6 weeks. And yeah, but I can look outside the window and see tons of people not being socially distant, on top of each other, hanging out, drinking, smoking hookahs. Like, it's just, and I'm not a germaphobe. So for me to just like cringe at it, it's like, I know what I've been doing to keep my family safe and healthy, but then they're gonna be traveling and then or with other students who are not. So I think I don't really see the need for the high schoolers particularly to even have to do the blended, because now they're exposing them maybe just so they can get air. I mean, I don't know. But as far as an actual need for their own safety, I think it's safe for them. It's much safer for them to stay at home, because they're just literally gonna go to school to be isolated in like in a cubicle. It's a grab and go lunch. They're gonna be like, you sit there and be there all day. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, no, I have a quick question is, because regarding is, I just want to understand is the ventilation system on the building, on the campus. I mean, is it central AC? Because I know those windows don't have a space for individual room AC, correct?
Correct. There's no window units. Yeah.
So it is central AC, and they, I work for the city, so because I know that DOE handles everything completely different from the rest of the city agencies. I know that, like, for example, DCAS is putting us on hold to return until we fulfill X amount of requirements, and part of those requirements are the HVAC system and all that, HVAC filters. Now, and this is one of the reasons is like, once we were clear by the information makers was providing us parents, is that, we came to the decision that, no, like the kids are going to stay remote no matter what. I've been following up everything on the reports that the UOE is asking, inspections that they claim they doing on the buildings, but clearly the ventilation is not working, period, no matter what, because I have a elementary school right across the street from my place, and their ventilation is individual ACs on the windows, because they do have windows. Now, if we can accomplish having 100% kids, 100%, all of them doing remote, because literally the Bertrand campus is not safe on ventilation, no matter what. It wasn't before COVID, it's not gonna be safe now. Now, is there a way that as a parents we can do is to have the staff not to attend the building, or try to put pressure on the DOE to not have, because, okay, fine, we're gonna keep our kids here at home, but you guys are there. So, I mean, the same way that you guys care for our kids, we care for you. So is there something that can be done from our side as a parents?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yes. This is my name is Mr. Roberts. Thank you, sir. It's good to hear. It's good to hear that. Currently, we're in a situation now where I want to just acknowledge that, as teachers, we have this same concern, and even the administrators have the same concern. So I just want to show off a little bit that, Maker's in a situation where we are in direct same page, in line with our administrators. So it's really a fight against us, against, the powers that be, unitedly. We are in a situation now where we are uniting the building with the other involved, say that this building is not safe with some demands. I would love to work something out where you, as parents and the community, jump on board with that as well. Right off the top, I don't have that understanding, but I would definitely like to finish this conversation so we can add that. That will be more empowering for us and what we're trying to stand for.
I mean, so I think one like concrete thing, we want to write the letter that's addressed to the UFT in solidarity with both PA and SLT. And we want to be able to say that concretely. So EV and other PA SLT members, I don't know if we need an actual vote on that or how that happens officially. But we did want to confirm that using that language is okay. There's a parent advocacy group called Press that's really active. They're part of Safe Schools NYC. And they've been doing a lot of like what, are you Mia's dad, Xavier?
Yes.
Yay.
Uh-huh.
She's the best. So I think like we need parent support. And we need to make this look like it's a holistic issue because it is, and we need this unity. So I think any parent who's interested should just come to this like next meeting when we're developing this list and give feedback. I don't know when the next meeting is, but it will likely be tomorrow or the following day. So if you're up for that.
Now, you mentioned also there is the student population is not 100% remote yet, correct?
Correct.
The percentage that is supposed to be attending, blend.
44 students.
44 students. Now, is there a way that how active those 44 had been with the information coming from the school, or how active they have been with the Zoom calls, that if they are fully aware of the situation, or, you know, there was a time that I was not as active and I was lacking a lot of information. So I know that some parents, you know, because work, other kids and everything, I mean, not everybody's fully engaged on what's the reality on the building. So more than maybe we can try to work out, explain those 44 students what the reality is on the building and make it 100%. And probably that will give us some weight regarding is like, okay, we are not going to have any students yet.
I agree with Javier is saying. Maybe the parents are having, either because they don't understand technology as well, like they know how to get on WhatsApp and Facebook and IG, but to get into these Zooms, it's been a whole headache. So he's completely right. I understand where he's coming from. So maybe there can be a follow-up and speak to the parents directly. And as far as, you know, standing up for you guys, because it is a school community together. It's a lot easier for us as parents to be like the sacrificial lamb, to be the forefront, because it wouldn't target any of you guys. Like I wouldn't want any of you guys to be targeted. Maybe not now, but you know, 5-10 years later, because I don't want you guys to be like the rebel just because you're standing up for your own safety, your family's safety, and our children's safety all together. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the things, if I could just jump in, I think one of the things that staff have been making calls, not only to the students that we haven't gotten in contact with, but also to those students that have chosen blended in person, sort of as follow-ups, just because there's, you know, every time we call, there's new information. It's tricky, right? Like, I think that parents calling, I think that you can say some things that I can't say as the principal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just to be like super clear, right? Like, if there's families that need to send their kids to school, right? Like, you know, that's the statement, right? Like, someone will be at school.
I understand what you're saying.
So, I don't want to.
Because I don't want it to be like, oh, the principal's bullying us into doing 100%.
Listen, I will tell you as a parent, and like I said, it's like I probably got the advantage because of my job. Yes, I'm part of the reopening task force, trying to get our office back in the building sometime eventually. And even being a small office that, you know what, it's 44 members of staff, and we are not far from acres, but you know what, we have to follow guidelines for every little process that we're going to do planning to it. And one of them is understanding the ventilation system. And that's why one of the first things is like, when I came to the reality, it's like, Bertrand is not going to be ready for that, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So as a parent, that, you know, helping them to understand what is going on regarding the process, that the DOE is not being upfront. So as a parent, I volunteer to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely right. The only maybe I'm just being devil's advocate, there might be an underlying issue. Either the child maybe is not living in a stable home, or they don't feel safe, or it's just, this is their escape to just get out the house. So maybe for their own, like, mental health, I don't know. Because sometimes just being hooked up, some people just, they go stir crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I'm sure that out of that, the group that's still doing this opted to do a blended, especially with this age group, because I'm saying it's not, they're old enough to be alone. They don't need a parent to be on top of them 24/7. It's not like homeschooling a first grader or a kid with special needs. Trust me, I can speak on behalf of every age group possibly. There might be another issue, maybe.
I think to that point also, like, one, not counterpoint, but like point of advocacy is that the city is rapidly closing borough-based rec centers that were housing, supervising, educating many students who might be experiencing homelessness, like Kenji's mom mentioned. And they're closing those and forcing students to travel to schools, which further creates vulnerability for already vulnerable populations. So I think it's important to, like, think of those students, but also think of the fact that if they're disproportionately experiencing unsafe reopening, that's also a problem. And so